from the national hero of the Hungarians. Petőfi became the spiritual father of the 1848 revolution, and his poem, National Song, I don't know if I recited that, the National Song was recited by the public gatherings to inspire the Hungarian people to fight for their freedom. Later on, Petőfi became the symbol of fight against all forms of dictatorship in the 20th century. I remember when the introduction of your book was in my house. Remember it. And you don't know here that in this book, the majority of the poems, they are very, very revolutionary poems. And when the introduction of this book was in my house in 2007, I was a little afraid that those poems were too revolutionary, and I was expected to be expelled from this country. But after all, it didn't happen, so I'm still here. So maybe these poems were not too revolutionary. Anyway. So I remember that evening in my house. The fact is that for young intellectuals, Petőfi in Hungary always was a role model. A role model, especially during the revolution in 1956 against the Russian occupation. You know, there is a square in Budapest with Petőfi statue. This square was the scene of many demonstrations, even for my generation, during the political transition of 1989. The poems of Petőfi were translated into many languages during his lifetime and continues to be translated to this day. And his poems also became a source of inspiration for many intellectuals. Let me share with you one very interesting detail of Petőfi as a source of inspiration. Everybody knows the German philosopher Nietzsche. Even Ilman writes about him in his famous message of the East. But apart from being a philosopher, Nietzsche was also a very good musician who said six of Petőfi's poems for music. On the other hand, as a philosopher who articulated modern disillusionment, Nietzsche wanted precisely what Petőfi wanted: to radically transform the world, to do away with mediocrity in favor of genius and affirmation of wealth. Petőfi's personality, his ideas were very similar to the personalities and the ideas of other epoch-making figures of this time, like for example Pushkin in Russia, Mickiewicz in Poland, Shelley, Keats, Weiner in England, and literally the Germans, Goethe, Schiller, Werther. So these artists are fundamental national figures, and as such, they were quite similar to each other. They laid the foundations of all revolutionary ideas. The two dominant passions in Petőfi's poetry are liberty and love. In a short poem that may be regarded as his Ars Poetica, Petőfi expressed his concept like this, I quote: liberty, love. These two I need. For my life, I will sacrifice life. For liberty, I will sacrifice my life. So, talking about this long list of those great artists, philosophers, with whom he can get a kind of spiritual kinship. In the case of everything, we can also add to this long list the name of Arabic as well. However, the first question is, how did Iqbal become aware of Bedouin's poetry? I mean, it is difficult to imagine two countries geographically so too far away from each other and culturally so different from each other as Pakistan and Lebanon. So how come that Iqbal knew about Bedouin's poetry? This is a million-dollar question this evening today. I try to give my own answer, which maybe doesn't worth $1 million, but at least might bring us closer to reality. So, was he Professor Leitner? Leitner, the Hungarian boy, registered for the government college? I don't think so. I don't think so because Leitner died already by the time he was starting his studies in the government college. Was he called a Stein? Maybe we are getting closer